name's Pete Gordon. I'm Head of Emergency Care Improvement with the Emergency Care Improvement Support Team. And our latest podcast is with Richard Mitchell, who's the Chief Executive of Sherwood Forest Hospital's NHS Foundation Trust. So, hi, Richard.
Hello.
We're going to ask you I'm going to ask you a few questions. Firstly, congratulations on the HSJ Award for the Acute Trust of the Year. And if it's okay with you, I'm just going to go straight in with the questions. So, you're a successful chief executive, BC chief executive. How do you balance the priorities that you face on a weekly and daily basis? For example, balancing the emergency care priorities with elective care priorities and other stuff.
Thanks for the introduction. I think it's too early to ascertain whether I'm a successful chief executive or not. I'm fortunate to be in an organisation that's made some progress now over a number of years. Clearly, provision of safe, high quality, timely care to patients pre-COVID was difficult, and I think COVID has brought a level of complexity to it. I think if you think about all of the factors at play, it can feel overwhelming. So the way that I have tried to approach it and the learning from others is, as the chief exec, I think my key focus is trying to support the people around me in the wider organisation. I'm a firm believer that people come to work to do a good intent. I deal with the idea about sort of positive intent. So if you approach it that people come to work to do a good job, when problems arise, and they will arise, or mistakes happen, it's about supporting them to learn from that. So I think the consistency of inclusion and listening to people and developing people and making people feel good about themselves, I think that's going to be good for them, because our working lives and our personal lives are intertwined. If you feel good about work, you feel good about your personal life. I think when people feel included, that will be a key determinant of safe, timely care to patients. And I also think that people are far more willing to deliver and accept change if they feel that they own the change. So if I come to them and say, this has to change, people aren't going to buy into that. But if we have a conversation and they generate the idea, I think they're likely to deliver it. So whether it's the balancing of elective and emergency care or the other multifaceted things that we have to think about, I firmly believe focus on the people around you in the wider organisation and try and make progress around that idea of inclusion and listening to people. And I think that then unlocks the potential of the individuals in the organisation.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Richard. Now, Sherwood's managed to sustain pretty high levels of emergency care performance over a number of years. So I guess what people listening in will be, have you managed to sustain that level of performance?
So I was fortunate. I've been at Sherwood for nearly 4 years now. Certainly, Sherwood was a high-performing organisation from an emergency care perspective when I joined. And as you described, we have vaguely been able to keep that going. I always think about emergency care as through three dynamics. The first one is about all of the actions and the activity and the focus around activity into the organisation, whether it's patients turning up, ambulance referrals, and the admissions. So playing a proactive role, working with primary care and the local authorities and other partners to safely ensure that patients present elsewhere. The second bit, I think the organisation is entirely responsible for, and that is about the internal dynamics. So ensuring that you've got timely decision making, ensuring that you've got safe rotas, that the emergency department has beds to admit to. That's the second bit. And then the third component part is working with partners to ensure that patients are being discharged in a safe and timely way. And I think when all three of those things happen in parallel, that then provides safe care to patients, of which access is a contributing factor. We're fortunate that we've got brilliant people at Sherwood, clinically and non-clinically. We've got fantastic partners that we work with across the system. And I think what we have been able to do, and I sort of alluded to it, we've been able to position access as being a marker of quality of care. If my mum was cared for in the emergency department and she waited 9 hours, I wouldn't be happy with that. And I don't think anyone would be happy of a parent or a close friend being treated in the department over a long period of time. So if we won't accept that for our friends and family, why would we accept it for another patient? So positioning access as a marker of quality, I think, has unlocked the conversations over many years now.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. And Next question. How do you balance a sort of culture of continuously improving with the daily demands of operations that you'll be facing, you and the team will be facing?
So I think it's really tricky to do, and I think there's many organisations that are more successful than us with this. So one of the things we've tried to do is to learn from lots of other people. I think the NHS isn't particularly fantastic at learning from other organisations who have gone out and about pre-COVID physically or during COVID virtually, listening and watching people, what works for them. I think for me, that point about balance is, I think it is difficult to continuously improve if you haven't got the foundation stones in place. So I'm a firm believer, obviously all of this is a lot easier said than done, and I don't think we do it particularly well here, but I'm a firm believer in trying to focus initially on the here and now, going back to that bit about culture, take practical steps to improve the culture, ensure that people feel listened to, that they're included in decision making. I think when that happens consistently, I think that's a key determinant of the quality of care, the patient experience, the safety, the delivery of the access standards. And I think when you build some momentum with that, and you're not worrying about every single day or every hour of the day, you're not worrying about the volumes of patients waiting outside to be transferred into the emergency department or the occupancy in ED or things like that. When you've got a slightly better position in place, I think that then unlocks the potential for those conversations about the continuous improvement, whether it's through the lens of the organisation you work in or increasingly more about the continuous improvement across the system.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Richard. Last question. So for people who are listening in, who are working on urgent emergency care, maybe in leadership roles, what would be your top tips?
So I think the provision of all care, certainly emergency care, is really difficult. I'm non-clinical. I feel I'm in a privileged position because to an extent I'm removed from some of the sort of the practicalities and the difficulties, the lived experiences on a day-to-day basis. I think my advice or top tips for what it's worth is to try and remember that success is based around teamwork. I know clinicians and leaders and managers often will feel sort of vulnerable or isolated or working on their own, but I think we need to do everything possible to ensure that people feel part of a team. I think when you feel part of a team, when you feel included, that unlocks lots of things. I would focus on trying to root everything back into the patient. So being clear, are we taking decisions that truly benefits patients? And if we're not, why not? And I think, as I've alluded to, focusing on the well-being and the welfare of people around us, it's exceptionally difficult. I've worked in very large organisations with busy emergency departments. It's exceptionally difficult in winter and increasingly across the whole year now to move the dial so that the performance or the access or the quality is in a better position. But I firmly do believe that a key delivery of that is getting the team around you into a good position when they feel listened to, when they feel included, when they've got some form of work-life balance. I think that can only make things easier. So that's what we've tried to achieve here. I was fortunate that the Sherwood was in a good place from an emergency care perspective when I joined, and I'm grateful that through the fantastic work of Ben Owens and Simon Barton and thousands of people across the organisation. And on that point, it clearly, I said it's about a team. It's not just about the emergency department or the department working with the ambulance service or the admissions unit. When it works well, it's because everybody has played their role. So trying to recognise that, I think, make things easier.
Brilliant. Thanks, Richard. That was a great interview, and I couldn't agree more. So thank you very much.
Thank you.